That's it, guys. Welcome to the
Good
very
evening.
first Scarves and Spikes podcast. This is Tyler Pilgrim from Dirty South Soccer alongside Sydney Hunt and Tommy Moose. Make sure you guys you can see our names up on the screen. Make sure you guys are following us on Twitter. Scarves and Spikes on YouTube and Twitch, and on Twitter it is at Scarves in Spikes. So we welcome you guys in to the very first episode. Finally, this has been I want to say a long time in the making, guys, but it's really not. I mean, we kind of had the idea for a while, but post World Cup was when we really got this thing kind of going.
Yeah, good to have you all along, and just to kind of give you all. I mean, most of you know how we get started. Myself, Tyler, and Tommy. We host the post-game Twitter Spaces on the Dirty South Soccer Twitter channel, or Twitter feed, I should say. So I'm sure you guys are big fans of those. You listen to those, or the highs and the lows for the Lady United. Mostly lows, probably in 2022, if we're honest with ourselves. But
our therapy sessions that we had.
Yeah, exactly. No, exactly.
Too much losing.
Right.
Too much losing.
Right. But yeah, hopefully 2023 brings brighter days for Atlanta United. And yeah, I can't wait to do it with you guys, Tyler and Tommy. Not just here on YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter, but also as a podcast. So if you guys missed the show or can't make it out, just search Dirty South Soccer on your favorite podcast platform, and you'll be able to listen there.
So much complaining that we had on Spaces last year. Just so many losses.
Yeah, and the good thing about this too is you know, you guys can comment on YouTube, Twitch, Twitter. Yeah. This is our first episode.
Ariel, Zof, we see you.
Yeah, we see all you guys.
James.
And yeah, we want this to be as interactive as possible. Obviously, it's a little different than Twitter Spaces. We're not going to be able to get everybody in at the same time, but you guys can chat. You can send in messages. And we're going to have, you know, entire segments dedicated to what you guys say in the comments. And also we definitely want to have you guys comment and chat with us. So we're going to get to it, but we have a ton of Atlanta United news to cover because Atlanta decided
Alex Dijon is gone.
That's the headline. I don't know what you're talking about.
That's what we got to start with, right?
Breaking news.
We don't have our official NFT guy anymore to tell us what we need. Like, I still don't understand what NFTs are, but
Alex Dijon was my investment advisor for a long time. He had me
look
on a
roll. Look at that fancy microphone you have.
I know. Look at that, man. And look at all this. That's all Dijon.
Yeah. If anyone in the chat knows anything about NFTs, please let us know, because you know more than we do collectively.
Please explain.
Or if you listen to podcasts, send us an email or tweet us.
So, all right, the first, I think, just to dive into it, because we want to try to keep these episodes around an hour and a half. If it goes longer, it goes longer. If it, whatever, you know, we're just here. We're having fun. We're having a good time. But there is a crap ton of Atlanta United news since the new year and before. The big one that we're going to probably spend a bit of time on is Mr. Josef Martinez.
How does this thing work? We got to light one up for
light him up, Tommy.
We got to light one up for Josef, because this is bad news.
Yeah.
So, but here's the thing: is it bad news that he's going, or is it just bad news in the way that he's going?
Yeah, I mean, I think Josef was always leaving. We knew Josef was always leaving, right? Just the relationship between the front office and Josef Martinez was just really fractured beyond repair. I mean, Garth Lagerwood comes in, really a clean slate, not as familiar with what's going on, but I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, he was always leaving. And I know we kind of talked about the Twitter Spaces, guys. We're hoping that Atlanta United wouldn't use the buyout on Josef Martinez. We're hoping that the club could get some kind of return on him. He did have a no-trade clause in his contract that he would have to waive, obviously, if he wanted to be traded to another MLS side. There's always the outside chance, too, that a club overseas would make a transfer bid on him, and Atlanta United would be able to make at least some return, but it doesn't look like that will happen. It looks like is headed to Inter Miami based on reports from The Athletic. And, I think at the end of the day, I think kind of the good news for Atlanta United is they're getting a DP slot back. And, with Garth Lagerwey in the building now, it's going to be interesting to see what Atlanta United do with that DP slot. I mean, there's no shortage of needs the team has at this current point in time, the striker being one of them. So I'm really interested to see what Garth Lagerwey, Carlos Bocanegra do with that extra DP, well, not extra, but that DP slot that is set to open up. And yeah, who knows? Maybe there's a superstar striker out there that we haven't mentioned that is on his way to Atlanta.
Well, and this all started months ago, right when the season ended. Felipe tweets, leaks, whatever you want to call it, that the club has no intention of keeping him. And right then your trade value goes down. Like it's people know what you're getting into here. And then, he's got a no trade clause, also takes some value. And people know that Atlanta's hands were really tied. So I think we said on the spaces, like the worst case scenario was losing him for nothing. And that's what this is. And it's just a combination of things. And, I saw on Twitter people, blaming Lagerwey for some reason and Boca, and it is what it is. The contract situation that was put in was there, and
right.
It's the best for all parties. Josef gets to move on. He wanted a raise, right? And he's technically getting it because, from my understanding, when you buy him out, I think he gets the rest of his remaining contract, and then he's going to get paid whatever additional from other clubs. And this is normal in other sports. There's a lot of players in the NFL that get cut and they take a discount anywhere else just to get signed with them, but it's just extra money for them. So it's good for Josef and it's good for the club, because obviously the Pineda Josef situation in the locker room has to be very awkward for the other players that aren't involved in it. So getting that out is gone. I mean, Josef's last statement, I think, as an Atlanta United player was, go talk to Boca and Pineda in the corner about my future. So that's awkward with the front office. So we all knew this was coming. We were just kind of crossing our fingers that we'd get some type of value back. And this just kills the Eric Lopez buyout.
And I think
it's the way I look at it is we can't buy out Eric Lopez.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Now we got to figure out what to do with Eric, and it's, I don't know, but at face value though, it's super easy as a fan, I think, to get frustrated with everything that happened with Josef on both sides. But you had Felipe's article that came out, and that was kind of like what broke the news and all. But I mean, Josef essentially did it to himself. Like, you flip over a table of chicken and rice, it's going to get found out. Whether Felipe, wrote an article about it or not, that's going to come out. Somebody's going to leak that. So, then it's clear that he's unhappy. Then you have the comments. I was there in the locker room when he said that. When he said, go talk to the coach and go talk to Boca. Like that was like, he was super, super just off put and away from everybody. And you could tell he was unhappy. And that's just where he's at as a player in Atlanta United right now. And at the end of the day, if he doesn't feel as welcome at the club, I mean, the fans may still love him to death. I mean, I love Josef Martinez.
Absolutely.
He absolutely built this club into what it is today. And he is the face of the club, and he will be probably for a while, and even after he's gone. But he's also kind of been put in a position now, partially of his own doing, to where he's now got to, deal with the repercussions of his own actions, of dealing with, multiple coaches that he's had issues with. And this was the one where, unfortunately, with the injuries and everything else going on, you don't have the product on the field to then back up everything else that you're trying to, negotiate in the locker room. So it sucks, but there was a time when we were going to be Josephless anyway. And how it happened, it's painful. You definitely wish you could get something for MLS's most prolific striker, certainly. But he's got to go at some point anyway. If this is the way it goes down, and we haven't even mentioned it yet. Yeah, it is Miami. It came out today, I think, from Cesar Luis Merlo saying that it was the club is Miami is asking for a year.
Yeah.
He is wanting 2 years.
Yeah.
So then you got to come into the question of is he going to try to, negotiate something maybe we can do a year with an option, or is he just demanding 2 years straight up? There's a lot still that's not finalized yet. I mean, and things could still fall through, and then you end up with just having to do a buyout, and Josef is without a club for a while.
Yeah. And the big question is, Tyler, we talked about Josef's relationships with the coaches. I mean, the big question is, if this deal to Miami does come to pass, like it looks like it might be coming to pass, what's his relationship going to be with Phil Neville? I mean, that's a whole different coach that he'll have to adjust to, a whole different system that he'll have to adjust to, a whole different personality that he'll have to adjust to. So, I don't know Phil Neville personally. I mean, obviously he is a footballing legend in the UK, in the Premier League. Yeah, as a coach, he has his ways about him. He has his personality, obviously. And will that personality chafe with who Josef Martinez is? So I think that's something that Miami will have to take into account. And you just talked about the whole contract situation. The club want to give Josef just 1 year. Josef wants 2. And knowing Josef, knowing his agent, they're probably pushing for 2 guaranteed years, saying, look, we know that Josef Martinez still has some good football in him. So he needs 2 years guaranteed. Nothing about this option or anything like that. He needs 2 years, period. And Miami saying, no, we understand that he has had health issues, so let's try out for 1 year, and then if things go well, let's try for another year on top of that, or maybe that 1 year and an option that our club actually they were talking about, Tyler. So those are some secondary things that need to be considered on Miami's side, and I know a lot of Atlanta United fans are looking at it from a pessimistic standpoint to say, hey, since Josef Martinez plays Atlanta United twice a year, he's going to score so many goals at Atlanta United. I don't necessarily see that, because I think Josef Martinez, while he may have issues with Gonzalo Pineda and the Atlanta United front office, he still understands, right, that Atlanta was a city, and the fan base was a city that was just so good to him during his time here, and really will continue to have a soft spot for the city. So I don't know if he'll really have an axe to grind against Atlanta United, the club, more so than it is with the staff itself and the coaches themselves. So I know when Atlanta United play Miami, like I said, twice a year, that's going to be really awkward, especially when Josef comes back here to Mercedes-Benz Stadium. So yeah, it's a weird situation, and I hate that it ends like this. I really wanted Josef to retire a 5 stripe. Obviously, that's not going to happen. I mean, obviously, he had his injury that he was working back from, but unfortunately, the bridge was burned, and he's now headed to Miami. It looks like, or I should say Fort Lauderdale, not Miami.
Yeah,
Fort
right.
Lauderdale.
we're not quite in Miami yet.
South Florida.
He's got his boat in Miami.
Yeah.
So when he scores his first goal, does he find the Boca box and stare him down, or does he look at Pineda?
Yeah, I think he goes and does the thing in front of the owner's box or whatever. I mean, but you got to think that's Josef's personality, and there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, you're blessed if you have a guy that is that, he wears his heart on his sleeve, and that's
right.
Great. It's certainly worked for him at Atlanta, but it's also a big personality that you have to deal with. And yeah, I mean, it sucks to see the guy go, no matter what, for sure.
Here's a question.
Yeah, I was just going to say, yeah, he had dropped in. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, Phil Neville quote was, I think I said last season, we're not going to allow any kind of D heads in our dressing room.
Sounds like a Phil Neville
quote. He hasn't gotten along with any coach, and it's, I mean, the moment we realized, I think for me, remember during the whole Heinze situation, this was like, it was either right before the game where he sat or it was right after that. The whole article came out with Felipe, right? And it was just talking about the front office, and it was, that entire article was like, oh, like this is going downhill quickly. Even if Heinze is fired, right? And he ends up getting out within like 10 days of that entire situation. We knew that it was going to be rough. He was already asking for a raise at that time. He was just coming off the injury. And then what happens after the end of the season? He needs another surgery. So, you know, Twitter has been a complete disaster in the past 24 hours. And I don't think you can blame anyone for how
Only
they feel. Like, I
24?
think as the player and the memories, like, yeah, like this guy is the best. This is Atlanta United. But in reality, if you've watched him, you could tell that it was likely time to move on. And if you know the backstage drama as well, like that just adds into it. And, you know, there's an argument that Josef Martinez led the team in goals last season. Absolutely. And he missed a ton of games. But when you watched his runs off the play of the ball, it was just not good. There was just games where it just wasn't there. And we'll never find out. I mean, we'll see what happens here in Miami, but he did not start often. Cisneros was starting over him, you know, consistently, and you don't bring on a DP to have them, you know, come off the bench.
Right.
You know, I mean, we did have Barco for most of the season where he was on the bench the whole time, but you can't have that. And who knows what's going to happen here? But you look at guys, Zlatan, who's had knee issues. How many times has he had to get that cleaned up? And it's very likely that at some point this season, or maybe even this offseason, he's had to get the knee cleaned up again. So, you know what you have going in this year. You know the risks, and Atlanta United decided to move on for 3 to 4 different reasons, and I think it's good for the club.
Yeah, I see T. Riddle's comment on YouTube, and thanks, guys, for your comments. Please comment on Twitch, YouTube, and Twitter, or hit us after effect on Twitter at Scarves, the letter N Spikes, if you're listening to the podcast or watching this later on. T. Riddle's saying, I don't know why a new team like St. Louis doesn't just give him the contract he wants, use him for culture building. I don't know if Josef Martinez would fit into the St. Louis culture. I certainly don't think that he'd get along well with Bradley Cardinell, who has experience in MLS, but not that much experience as an MLS head coach. So I don't think that Bradley Cardinell strikes me as the person who knows how to handle Josef Martinez. And I certainly don't think the front office strikes me as, you know, people who would know how to handle Josef. So I don't know if that would be a fit. I think along with that, I don't know that while the ownership is ambitious in St. Louis, they want to field a competitive team, and there's a lot of demand for St. Louis City SC tickets at this current point in time. I just don't see him fitting into that culture, especially with, and not a knock at St. Louis, really the location in St. Louis. I mean, Josef will play wherever he plays, right? But just from a cultural standpoint, St. Louis itself doesn't really strike me as a place that he'd want to go. So,
yeah, and to kind of add on to that too, it's worth pointing out that as an ownership group or owner or coach, if somebody comes to you and says, "Hey, what do you guys think about Josef Martinez?" Your first thought is, you know, MLS, you know, leading goal scorer in terms of games played, absolute legend in Atlanta, still need to build the statue. You go straight there in your mindset, right? But then you start thinking about this past year, and then you start thinking about the Gabriel Heinze era. Then you start thinking about the Frank de Boer era. And then if you really want to go back and look at how, you know, even Tata has come out and mentioned that he's a very strong personality. There's nothing wrong with that, but a coach has to be able to handle that. And so, especially like in terms of St. Louis, like Riddle's saying, and then, you know, Colonel had mentioned, you know, that would put him in the Western Conference, which would be great for Atlanta. But at the end of the day, whoever is going to take on Josef Martinez is going to have to be able to handle that personality. Yeah. That's just part of it. It's a whole package that you're getting. And, you know, it's tough in some cases to kind of deal with if you got a guy who is relatively in his prime, really, as a striker, barring the knee issues and all that. He's still at an age where he can make a huge difference for a team, but he has to want to be there, and he has to want to be involved in the club and whatever direction they may be going. And so, yeah, I mean, even Kubas Garcia was saying on here, do you guys think that Josef wants to go to Miami, or Miami is the only MLS team that wants to take a chance on him for the amount of money he wants and the personality? And that kind of speaks to the point that I was just making. But I mean, I think
we already know David Beckham's ambitions for Inter Miami. So,
but you're a new dad. Maybe you don't want to move far away from where your roots are.
Yeah.
And I don't know where the baby mama Josef is, but she could be, have a ton of family that's close. So Miami's not too far. So that might be one of the reasons why he wants to stay around here.
And Josef really likes boats. I'll just throw that out there. So Miami's like the place to be.
You're saying Barco's going to Inter Miami, Tyler?
Yes. Boat himself. So, it's a tough situation. It sucks as an Atlanta United fan, but I still think from a fan perspective, at some point you have to have a new start, and the only way in some cases to do that is to rip, the tooth straight out and just get rid of it. And it sucks, because I think I speak for probably every Atlanta United fan, or anybody that's even like a casual fan. Josef Martinez got so many people into this game in the South. If you were already into soccer as a fan before, he probably made you an Atlanta United fan. And it does hurt. It sucks. But, Atlanta United is still a fledgling club in the grand scheme of things. And we're just count us as fans as lucky to be able to have seen, a guy like him come through, make such a difference, win trophies, and move on, because you have so many clubs in this world that have quote unquote stars come through that still don't win anything. And Atlanta was lucky enough to get quite a bit out of Josef Martinez, and that's great. But now it's time to move on, and it sucks, but it is what it is.
Yeah, and fans, I feel some fans need to decide, hey, am I a Josef Martinez fan or am I an Atlanta United fan? And it's easy to get attached to the player. And I definitely don't blame the fans for being attached to Josef Martinez, but at the same time, even with a player like Josef, who's meant so much to this club, a player can't be bigger than a club, and Atlanta United will still be here when Josef Martinez is gone. It hurts, like you said, Tyler, but at the same time, looks like the club is ready to move on. So best wishes to Josef, and hopefully he does well. Hopefully not against Atlanta United, though.
Yeah.
You always remember your first, and I did not like soccer at all growing up, and came to Atlanta one weekend for a Falcons game, saw everything, saw the flags, came in, watched Josef play, bought his jersey, and I've been a fan ever since. So if it wasn't for Josef, I don't know if I really would have gotten into soccer. So here I am.
And instant legend. And I don't care what anybody says, build the statue.
Yeah.
I'll just throw that out there. Like,
let him retire, and then let's build the statue. We can't build the statue now. He's not going to show up. He's not going to show up for the ribbon cutting ceremony as of today.
Yeah.
So I totally agree. So and kind of to pivot off of that, because we had again a ton of news to jump on. Daniel had mentioned, what do we think about the rumor? And I'm going to say this: it's a rumor, because I don't know. I mean, I try to preface anything that's a rumor by saying that, but I don't want to be misquoted and be like, oh, hey, Tyler Pilgrim said this. But
you've been quoted for that.
I know,
quoted, right?
Totally didn't mean to, but here we are. So that means I've made it, I guess. I don't know. So the rumor being that Korean international playing for Olympiacos, Hwang Woo-jo.
That's how you say it?
Yes.
Okay.
That sounds
I'm
right.
glad you said it. I didn't want to say it, so
that sounds
I would have butchered it. So
I practiced beforehand, so I'm going to say that's how you say it.
Yeah, that sounds right.
So, but yeah, actually of Nottingham Forest specifically, on loan to Olympiacos in Greece. The rumor is that he is linked to both Atlanta and Minnesota. Just a quick little bit about him. He's kind of on a slump, I guess you could say. He did play in the World Cup, played in 4 matches in the World Cup, didn't score, but was part of a South Korean side that did look good, but again didn't score. So you're looking at a guy that has been on loan immediately from Nottingham Forest, and he just kind of, I don't know if you want to call it a case of the yips. Maybe that's what it is. But if you look at his highlight reels, I mean, the guy can score. Absolutely. It's just a matter of, is he going to be put in the right formation, the right style to be successful? And he was played for a while in his career out of position as a winger, where he floundered and didn't do well. And then when he was placed back at a striker
Sounds
role,
familiar.
yeah, exactly. And he immediately started scoring goals.
That's familiar.
Talking about Josef Martinez. Josef Martinez was playing in Italy for a while before he came here, being played as a winger, and he gets brought to Atlanta, and suddenly he's, here we are having this conversation. So what do you guys think?
Yeah, just as a quick aside, he played 4 seasons in France Ligue 1 with Bordeaux.
Yep.
So he's played against Luis Araújo in Ligue 1. So the two, I'm sure, are familiar with each other just a little bit. But just take a look at his stats. A career high in goals for a league season was 2018, the J1 League with Gamba Osaka, where he scored 16 goals in 27 matches. His career high, at all competitions is 21. 2015 with Seongnam, I believe that's how it's pronounced, in the Korean League, the K League, and then with Osaka again, 2018. 20 goals across all competitions. So, he 5 goals or 0 goals in 5 matches with Olympiacos thus far in the Greek league. So, struggling to put the ball in the back of the net. With Bordeaux, his final season, they were relegated. They were playing in the 2nd division.
Yeah,
and he scored no goals in 2 appearances, and I think that's what precipitated his move to Nantes and then Olympiacos on loan. So, I mean, at Atlanta United, they need a striker. They need a striker. That's no disrespect to Jackson Conway. I mean, heck, Jackson Conway could come in and score 20
and just
goals.
Jackson Conway. Only Jackson Conway.
Right, exactly.
Well, that's the thing. Like, Jackson Conway might be the guy, but if Jackson Conway gets injured, then we're looking at me or y'all. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, but
false mind all day.
Right. No, but obviously the depth is extremely thin at that spot for Atlanta United, and they're going to need some options there. And I don't know if Hwang Ui-jo is the option that will break through for Atlanta United. I mean, we've already mentioned his struggles. He'll date back to last year. Didn't really do too much in the World Cup for South Korea. So maybe a move to the United States is the best move for him. Maybe he does turn out like Josef Martinez, Tyler, and lights the world on fire once he comes here. Will he do it? I don't know. Maybe it's a bridge too far to think that he will. But I mean, just right now, it doesn't look like he's in a situation where he brings value to whichever club he's at right now. And I'll be honest, I hadn't heard his name before he popped up in the rumor mill. And again, we want to stress it's a rumor. I mean, there are no substantial reports stating that he's going to one place or another. I think I read that Minnesota kind of lead the way on him right now. So I don't know. Is it as a backup option? Maybe. And maybe Atlanta United have a much larger move ahead of it. So I'll be interested to see what happens. Interesting to see how this plays out with Hwang Ui-jo.
I mean, likely he'd be a DP, right?
I mean, you would think, but here's I'll throw a wrench in things.
Or a high TAM player.
I think you could maybe get him for a high TAM deal, like 800,000 ish or so, because where he is at right now with the way that he's been moved around in UEFA, he actually can't be transferred to another UEFA team. So he has been, I think it's in the calendar year, if I'm not mistaken, but he can't go anywhere else right now unless he goes back to Nottingham Forest. So ultimately, it's going to be up to Nottingham Forest where he goes anyway, but it's not like they can bring him back and then send him out somewhere else. If he's not working out for Olympiacos, he's going to be stuck there. And so you got to imagine if he's stuck there, he's not scoring goals, he's being played out of position, and he's not doing well, him and his agent are probably going to be saying, hey, what are our options? And MLS is absolutely one of them. And it may force hey, we're not going to bring you as a DP. We're going to bring you as a max TAM deal kind of player and take a chance. And then, you never know in the future, maybe you do bump him up as a DP, especially considering Atlanta is probably going to have a significant amount of DP spots open here fairly soon.
Yeah. Bruno's saying, Josef Martinez backup. I think that's a little bit of a different situation, I feel. But I mean, it's just like I said, the name Hwang Yi-jo I hadn't heard in a while. I mean, heck, we did hear of Josef Martinez before he came to Atlanta United. And again, maybe he lights it up in MLS. I mean, who knows? I mean, we'll I'm sure the front office knows a lot more about him than we do collectively. But at the same time, I don't know if this has too many legs. I could be wrong. But yeah, we'll see what happens with this. We'll see how things play out with it.
If he's a DP, don't do it. I just flat out. I think that you're opening a contract up, and you need to find a new face of the franchise, and you got to get a guy that has a history of scoring. And I don't know. I think that the fan base has been burned for quite a few years, and I think you need to make if you're going to bring someone in, and we've seen some other signings around MLS, and these guys have a history of scoring recently, I think that you got to spend the money and bring a guy in that has a history of scoring. I mean, we could say, oh, Josef wasn't scoring much on the other teams, and he turned into something great. But how many guys have we brought in here we're like, oh, this guy's never scored a career goal before, but he's, we're bringing him in as a U22 player. Right. Aruju wasn't a consistent starter and hadn't scored like crazy numbers, and we brought him as a DP. Like, can we bring in a DP that has experience scoring?
Yeah.
Like, we just keep bringing in all these guys that have high upside, and I'm sorry, a lot of them aren't getting to the high upside that we were hoping. So I'm against this. If it's a DP, or if it's a very short term contract, and prove it deal, maybe, sure. But if it's as a DP, I don't like this at all.
So that brings up the question from Bruno. Do you guys think that DP spot will be open until the summer window? Because I've got my opinion on it, but I definitely want to hear y'all.
I mean, it's not out of the question that it will. I mean, judging from the way that Garth Lagerwey usually does things, I know he said that, it's kind of just so happened that a lot of his move happened in the summer and it wasn't his modus operandi. But if I'm to guess at it, I would say that they do leave that slot open and try to attempt a really substantial move in the summer. The problem with that is Atlanta United will, just be really treading water over the first few months of the season, and
Jackson Conway time, baby.
No, exactly. No, but I mean,
have you watched Seattle before? Because that's what Seattle loves to do.
No, and I totally get it. And yeah, those are all good points, but at the same time, the fan base is just out of patience. I mean, considering with what's gone on over the past few years, they're not going to want to sit through half the season of Atlanta United doing absolutely nothing, even if the payoff is, them really lighting it up and shooting up the standings like Seattle tend to do, and eventually making MLS Cups. So I don't know if that's the best approach at this current point in time. You don't want to get yourself too far out of the playoff picture too early, especially
kick him out. Yeah, kick him out. I'm sorry. I interrupted you, but kick him out.
Bruno, for everybody listening after the fact on the podcast, Bruno said
Bruno's trolling the chat.
Don't forget Breck Shea is still a free agent. That'll be a great striker option. Breck Shea, bring him.
Oh my word!
Sorry, Bruno, you're relegated. You're relegated out of
Snake catcher himself.
Oh,
no,
man.
but no, I mean, in all seriousness, though, Atlanta. I don't know if Atlanta United want to wait that long. I feel like there's options right now that they could take. This one, Boubacar has been raised, plays for Bastikas, and Olivier Giroud, who's been looking for a move to MLS. Do you go after guys like that who, like we were just talking about, are established goal scorers, and not only that, are attractive names known in world football? So I feel that while they may leave the DP slot open until the summer, is probably not the best approach if they really want to push for a playoff spot and maybe more.
What do you think, Tommy?
I think there's a very good chance they leave it open, unless something falls in their lap, and that happens sometimes. Random deals just fall in. I think that Aruju deal ended up coming in they started talking the day before the end of the transfer window, and then all of a sudden it just materialized.
He had just won the league shortly before that.
Right, and he wanted to start, and Boca knew, had connections with that club, and it ended up working out. If you're gonna have to find someone right now. I saw Kai Camaro is asking for his way out, so there's gonna be a lot of rumors that are a lot of movement in the next couple weeks, for sure. But you just can't start out flat. I don't think that you can at this point. You got to be competitive, and we've moved a lot of players out. And there's been some talented players that have been moved out as well. Like we could say, Moreno, and sorry Tyler, I know that you miss him. I'm sure his name's on the back of that jersey at this moment.
Sure is.
Mine's Joseph, so we're twins on former
Atlanta
United players here.
Yeah.
But you just can't start off flat. You need to bring in some players, and we've got a lot of spots. And I think the worry of everybody that's listening to this is, okay, in the past week we've just been exiting everybody. However, we're barely seeing any rumors of anything. We've seen a couple of rumors about a center back. We've seen rumors of a striker, but there's other positions as well that need to be shored up here, and it's concerning. But again, you still got a month. But I think someone said visas are taking still a lot longer right now in a post-COVID world. They've, especially during COVID, they were a long time, and I still think that they're taking a while. So you want to hopefully sign someone sooner than later to at least bring them into the training camp, and I'm sure they're doing a trip, a team trip. So if they're going to do that, you want to at least start building some chemistry here, and we're running out of time for that.
Yeah, and that brings up a good point. I mean, LA United was leaving. It's not like they found out yesterday. So he brings up a good point that Atlanta have to look at targets for a while. And just because we don't hear anything doesn't mean that nothing's happening. And as much as fans don't want to hear trust the front office, especially with the discontent surrounding Carlos Bocanegra, I mean, let's see what the front office does. I mean, I'm sure they've been keeping their eye on some potential targets for Atlanta United. I mean, Garth Lagerwey has a lot of connections. And let's remember, Lagerwey, I don't feel like his operating style is to make, splashy moves, enormous splashy moves. That being said, this is Atlanta. This is a wholly different ownership group. And a lot of money is in Arthur Blake's checkbook. So, I mean, maybe that will empower him to make some massive moves that he otherwise didn't make in Seattle. But at the same time, I think he'll be wise and smart and add players that have significant value for Atlanta United.
Well,
versus, maybe bringing in a major name. Sorry.
Yeah. No. I was just going to add on to that point. Because we've talked about it on the spaces before as well, but you go back to one of the things that Lagerwey said when he first got to Atlanta, and I can't remember if it was on 92.9 The Game or if it was when he went to the live Men in Blazers show. It was one or the other. But he mentioned and I'm paraphrasing here, but I'm not looking for the star. I'm looking for the guy that's going to fit in. And that to me was a big deal because you look at the way that this team has gone traditionally after, the South American talent, the Pity Martinez's, the Ezequiel Barcos, and not that those are bad shouts. Like, for all intents and purposes, they should have worked and did in some cases. And, they weren't the worst moves ever, if we're being realistic. Of course, we always want to joke around about things, but, they weren't the worst things in the world. Now, that being said, you've got a guy now who's in charge who he's not looking for those kind of guys. He's looking for the guys that are going to come in and just do the job and fit in with the team. And after last season, I think anybody can look at Atlanta United and say, yeah, I mean, I would be okay with a bunch of maybe not superstars, but just people that are going to go win games and make it to the playoffs, first of all, and then do well in the playoffs, second of all, and maybe even win the thing eventually. And Lagerway's even come out and said that's, his goal this year is a home playoff game to be fourth overall. And I mean, hey, that's a lofty goal, especially after last season. I'm here for it. If he can make it happen, by all means, do your thing, man. I don't care who you bring in, as long as they're going to fit in and do well.
Yeah. So, do we want to pivot off to Clement Diop now?
Yeah. So,
speaking of
goalie talk,
becoming
let's
players,
go.
Oh boy. So, yeah, Clement Diop. I'm pronouncing that the way that it was told by Atlanta United. Clement Diop. He's French. Yeah, I mean, kind of one of those that came out of left field, right? Like, we've got Brad Gazan, you have Quentin Westbrook, you've got with the two Westberg, sorry, my bad, Quentin Westberg. It's been a long day. You have Justin Garces and Vicente Reyes will end up with the twos. Of course, you're going to have to loan one of them back down. But now you bring in a third, quote unquote, MLS caliber goalkeeper. And it definitely does kind of change the whole goalkeeping routine up a little bit, because it definitely seems like you're basically forcing Garces and Reyes back down to the twos no matter what. Yeah. It also kind of makes you wonder, is Gazan really ready to go? You go back to what was mentioned, I think, Joe Patrick with 30 South with us and 92 on the game had put out back in November. He asked Carlos Bocanegra about the goalkeeping position and about bringing in guys that are going to challenge Brad Gazan for that starting goalkeeper role. And he said that was one of the things that he wanted to do. So in the beginning of the season, absolutely, I think you might see one or the other in terms of, Quentin or Diop. But, you got to imagine Gazan's absolutely going to be fighting his way back into what he's going to consider his role as a starter.
Do Atlanta trade either Westberg or Diop and try to get a return?
Maybe at some point in the season.
Yeah.
If Guzan's not ready and one of the other two start and they do well, and then Guzan's ready to fully start on a weekly basis, then maybe you have some trade value there. Because teams get injuries. We learned this last year, right? That anything can happen, and then you can move some players around. But I think that this is the last year, that they're really going in and saying, all right, here's the veterans that we have. And you've got these two young kids waiting. And this was the argument that we had with Conway over the past couple of years when Josef was hurt. Like, he should be playing. And he was up with us, and he was the second or third guy, just not getting minutes. And then as soon as we sent him down again last year, what happened? He started scoring again, Conway. So I think this is more get them playing time, get them playing on a regular basis, and then have them ready for next season, have them fully recover from their end. I think they were both hurt, right?
At some point throughout the season.
Yeah,
I mean, they were good now, but yeah.
But yeah, I mean, they're healthy now, but you want to have them you want to have them playing minutes on a regular basis. So I think that's just what they have. And next year, you're going to see the youth take over this spot because, Guzan's last year, their contract, and I think both these contracts are 1 year. So, yeah. I mean, you're basically just wiping out these three guys, and then you have your youth movement next year.
Yeah, and that's
more than fine.
That's not a bad thing. I mean, because you also have to understand, like everybody, we always talk about the first team and the twos, right? Because you have Garces and Reyes down at the twos, and both of them, they're outstanding for their age, absolutely, and they will be in some way, whether it's with Atlanta United or not, they will be involved in a senior team at some point soon, right? But you have quite a few in the academy coming up for Atlanta United as well. One of them is Nash Skoglund, who has been phenomenal in the times that we've been able to watch him. And yes, he's young, but if we're talking all the way down through the academy, you have guys coming up, and that's it's a good problem to have essentially. And yeah, I mean, you're looking at Brad, who is essentially, you know, he won't tell you this, I'm sure, but he's on the last portion of his career, and he's on the last year of his contract. So whatever happens to him after Atlanta United, that's on him. But in terms of the team, you have those options, like you said, Tommy, with you know, Justin Garces and Vicente Reyes potentially moving up one or the other, and then you've got you know, another year to develop them and work something out.
Having two young goalies ready to go is never a bad thing.
Yeah.
You know, worst case, you're able to move one. You can make one your franchise guy, move the other one out, and make some money off of them. So,
yeah.
I mean, there's teams that have done that, you know, in soccer and hockey. You know, it's a good problem to have. The hard part is just making that decision on who you're going to let go and who you're going to make your franchise guy. But either way, next year you're not going to have a huge budget going. If you kept these two young you know goalies, I think that's fine, because now all of a sudden your cap hit is minimal on what you're paying on that position. Where Brad Guzan was one of the highest paid goalies while he was before the injury, right? Like I think he took a pay cut actually last year before the injury, which was great. But I think it extended his contract a year, which is I think why he's here now. Maybe I'm wrong. I thought that's what happened is he took a cut, but they extended it a year. So you have him, which is great. I mean, it is what it is that Brad's back for one more year, and you know, hopefully he has a great year. But next year, you're going to be able to take some of that money that you've, quite frankly, have overspent on that position for many years and be able to move it around into other positions like the midfield.
Yeah, in a perfect world, you know, Sean Johnson would be here.
Right.
I mean,
come back home, buddy.
Yeah, exactly. He's still without a job right now. I know, I believe it was Toronto that were very interested in him, but I mean, I wish that, I mean, granted, Brad's still here, and if you were bringing Sean Johnson in, it'd be as a starter, not a backup. But
yeah, I think now that ship has sailed, because even what Atlanta United put out today was like, oh, our goalkeeping core for the first team is essentially complete now. So wouldn't expect any more changes there at all.
Yep. And going to Zil's point, talking about Reyes, you know, maybe one of the keepers in Atlanta United system ends up maybe being the next Gaga Slonina. I mean, you look at Slonina, I think Chelsea, he's in Europe right now. He had a phenomenal career with Chicago. I mean, he wasn't incredible. I mean, he had some down games, certainly, but he shot up the academy ranks, started out as a first team keeper, and eventually earned a move overseas, which was easy because he already had a European passport. But I mean, maybe Reyes, maybe Garces is that next player that does command the move overseas, and Atlanta that are able to make a return for him.
And to kind of add on to that, and what you're talking about Zill's point, Reyes he's been getting called up, but he's getting called up to the Chilean U20 squad this month for the CONMEBOL Championship, and you're looking at him potentially playing in the Olympics and the U20 World Cup. So the dude, and that's not to mention what he's done for the twos. He's been phenomenal. So, I mean, from a business perspective, yeah, I mean, you develop him, and if you do want to let him go, I mean, you're going to get something out of him for sure. And I would love to see another Gaga Slonina type move. But at the same time, now is when Atlanta has to start looking at the future in terms of goalkeepers, because going back to Tommy's point, you've got essentially, you know, you got Brad Guzan on his last year, and then you've got two guys who are MLS goalkeepers essentially, but they're on a year contract, and they're there, I think, because in part, the front office and the folks in the club probably have a little bit of PTSD from the amount of injuries that happened last year. And they don't want to have to go through the position that they got put in last season with all the injuries and the issues. So you do have at least a couple of guys that are proven. Now, granted, I don't know a ton about Clemon Diop, but if just based on what I've read and what I do know about him, I think I would put in Quentin Westberg as the second option over him. But that's what competing for that position is all about. So
yeah, I can see Westberg maybe as a U.S. Open Cup keeper, maybe your Leagues Cup keeper, because remember that's coming on board in 2023. So I could see that happening. And then if Atlanta were to progress further in those competitions, Brad would be back as the number one keeper. So that's kind of the scenario I see setting up. Granted, Westberg's 36, Diop is 29, so there's that age situation. But I would probably say that Westberg has the edge right now. I mean, before preseason really even started, as the number one backup behind Greg Guzan, with the opportunity to maybe start in a few spots, like I was saying, in Open Cup and Leagues Cup later this year.
Which goalie retires this season, mid-season? Which one of them?
Which one gets Shuttleworth?
Yeah. Are we going to get a Shuttleworth situation this year?
Hope not.
I hope not. Yeah. The thing is, it is interesting because Westberg's coming here, and for so long he was Atlanta's kryptonite. And
it just looks like a villain, in like you made a new Die Hard movie, like he would be the villain in it.
He has a look. He has a look to him, doesn't he?
He really does. He's got that James Bond villain kind of look to him.
Yeah.
If he's playing against you, like you just hate his face. Like we are getting him as a guest, I'm going to tell him I love his face. But right now, like when he played against us, I just hated him so much. And what is he even the saves? It was just the look that he would give the players. It was like, get out of here.
That guy.
Yeah.
That's a conversation for another time.
Right.
Hey, but maybe we can get him on and we can talk about his face and we can see.
And the hair, like the spiky hair, like just stands up. It's.
But he got dunked on by Parada and Almada.
That's true. That's true.
All right. So because we kind of went into the goalkeeper conversation and we dipped into the youth players a little bit. One of the other big things that came out, and it is important because I know a lot of folks want to focus on the first team, and that's great because that's the main news most of the time. But it is important to keep an eye on the academy and the twos because it is where your talent and where your business is coming from at the end of the day. If you can develop a good academy system, that's a big deal. And I mean, you look at the clubs like the Philadelphia Union and look at how successful they've been just with their academy. Seattle's the same way.
Dallas.
So Dallas is, definitely another big one. And you look at some of the moves that they've made and the money they've made just from their academy. So the big news, I guess, recently in terms of the academy was you had 5 Atlanta players that got called up to youth national teams. We just mentioned one of them. But overall, it was Noah Cobb, who we haven't talked about him because we do have some center backs to talk about, and he will be one of them. But Noah Cobb is going to be, unless some club snatches him up somehow, he's going to be one of the prime center backs for Atlanta United in the future. Absolutely. That's my opinion, but that's just how I feel about I've seen him play so many times. He played in the MLS Next All-Star game and was the captain. He was great. And if you look at this kid, you should be excited about Atlanta's center back future. Him and Aiden Torres have both joined the U.S. youth national team training camps, I think down in Florida. Then you have Malachi Grant, who also played in that next pro All-Star game with Noah Cobb, looked outstanding. Him, along with Ashton Gordon, they're going to be representing the Jamaican U17s. And then Efrain Morales will represent Bolivia for the U20s. And again, we talked about Reyes as well, but that's his historical movements have been where he's a goalkeeper, and I think Zilf said it earlier in the chat. They love him down there. But those are the 5 right now that have been called up as it stands right now. So, you've got a lot of talent that's coming up. I mean, Aiden Torres is 15 years old.
Yeah,
and he's going to the under 16 youth national team.
He's there right now. He's coming back end of the week.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's just lots to be excited about. You've got a bunch of kids that have a lot of talent, and Noah Cobb is, I think, definitely the closest. Him and Efrain Morales, probably the 2 closest to breaking through. Obviously, Noah Cobb just received his officially received his homegrown contract. It went into effect on January 1st of this year. So he's made it essentially.
Yeah.
But you have a lot of kids to be excited about in the future.
Yeah, that speaks volumes to the academy staff and the work they've done to really not just attract talent, but nurture talent and develop talent. I mean, talking about a kid like Caleb Wiley who's come through the academy, Tyler Wolf, who's come through the academy.
Yep.
Jackson Conway, we're still waiting to kind of see him break through at the first team level, but it was phenomenal.
Starter Jackson Conway.
Right.
Starter Jackson Conway.
No, but he was phenomenal at the USL Championship level.
Yeah.
So hopefully in 2023 that'll finally translate at the first team level. And I tend to get out of Atlanta United because a lot of these names haven't worked out. A lot of the players that have been hyped and have been put forth as players who can break through and have strong professional careers haven't panned out. I mean, Andrew Carlton is way atop that list, but
his little brother's playing with the 2s.
Yeah, Allen is with LA United too. So yeah, but there's so much young talent in this academy, and that's one thing that they've really done well, is been able to nurture that talent and develop that talent. That being said, we haven't seen a ton of players really, outside the names I just mentioned, really make it. I mean, Bella's a big one, obviously the biggest one right now, probably. But at the same time, you get to a situation where we talk about with the young keepers, Garces and Reyes, there's no pathway for them to really get to the first team. No, Reyes and Garces are essentially frozen out. Conway hasn't had an opportunity at the first team level consistently. And then there are other names that, and,
he did a little bit.
Right. Yeah, he
forced
did
to watch him for quite some time.
Yeah, he did a little bit, but I mean,
he does good in anything that's not an MLS game. If it's not an MLS game,
right,
he could do some decent things.
Right. But yeah, I mean, hopefully, like I was saying, hopefully 2023 is the year Jackson Conway breaks through, and who knows, he could be the next great striker in MLS history. I mean, but we'll have to see what happens. But at the same time, he does
fit in terms of the mold.
Yeah,
it seems like Pineda wants. I mean, he's a big-bodied. He's a big-bodied striker that likes to get in the box and make things happen. And he's not bad at his feet either. You gotta just have to hope that this last season he spent with the 2s, where he broke their scoring record, has given him a new level of confidence, and maybe he does come up and have a breakout year. You never know when that's going to happen, and that could be it for him. I mean, it's definitely possible.
So Bruno in the chat mentioned McFadden. McFadden actually came from Notre Dame, so he did not come through the academy. So just a side on that. But Johnny Villau, who's received a lot of hype that Zels brought up, heard a lot of great things about him. So I really want to see more of these younger players not just get to the MLS level, but excel at the MLS level. And maybe 2023 will be the start of that, to see that more consistently.
I agree. I just have to point this out too, going back really quick.
I saw that earlier.
I tried not to start laughing in the middle of it.
Yeah, Westberg looks like a walking mugshot.
Thank you. That's what I've been trying to say.
Quentin Westberg, if you by chance listen to this podcast, please, we love you and we're so glad you're here.
It's all
He's got like
fun.
static X hair.
Yeah.
Static X hair, like just like
that was
standing
the
up.
show back in the day. They need to have a remake of that. And cast
I
him,
can't
yeah.
believe. I still can't believe we brought up Andrew Carlton. I mean, I know we're like 5 days away, or 5 days too late of happy anniversary, Andrew Carlton. If you get that joke, but
Oh my gosh.
happy anniversary, Andrew Carlton.
All right.
Too
Anyway,
soon?
Alan
Too
Carlton. We're not going to go into Andrew's belief system.
I just make myself laugh. Sorry. Move on.
Yeah.
So, but no, I mean, I agree, Sydney, with everything you're saying. And not to like pivot again, but we told you guys beforehand we have a lot of news dump that we're trying to get through. Man,
Alex DeJean. Alex DeJean.
No longer not on the rundown. Maybe next week.
We lit a candle for Alex. So. Good for him. Sorry.
Chat with Alex for all of your NFT investment advice. Let's see.
We're gonna re-sign him if we can't get another center back. He's coming back. You know it.
Speaking, perfect time. Speaking of potential, let's talk about Miles Robinson first, because we're talking about rumors and all that. But Miles Robinson is still an Atlanta United player, and he has a year on his contract. It was mentioned that they're trying to sign him to another 4-year deal, which I think would be great. You don't want to let go
of who?
I mean, I think it'd be great. Well, for Atlanta, I mean, maybe not so much for Miles for a 4-year deal, but I think if you can come to terms with a 2-year deal just to get him for another couple of years and see what happens
overseas, you're saying?
Yeah. But I think you don't want to just let him go. You've got to figure out a way to keep Miles, because he's a constant that is going to work. Now, I understand there's the wild card with him coming back from injury and all, but if you've seen the guy running, if you've seen him back training again, I mean, he looks good. Now, it's a small sample size for sure, but it's very encouraging to see the way that he's been running over the past few weeks and kind of just putting out video. I think he's in like Piedmont Park or something, like running around up hills and stuff. It's good to see. But he was asked what his future looked like, and he kind of was like, we'll see what happens, which is, I mean, from a player perspective, it's not a bad stance to take, because if you come out and you do immediately jump right back in where you left off last season, you already, you were in the men's national team as a starter. You were going to be in the World Cup. It's unfortunate it didn't happen, but you've been one of the main constants for Atlanta since 2019, really, when he broke through. And if he can jump right back into that level of performance, I don't think it's going to be long before Atlanta starts seeing plenty of offers come back in for him.
Yeah, I think that's a big thing. Sorry, Tommy. I think that's a big thing is his recovery and his health. And that even though it looks like he looks good in training videos and all that, I mean, we truly won't get a sense of how he's really doing until he gets into game action, whether that be preseason or regular season. So, Miles has come a long way. I mean, it just hurts so much to have him. I mean, I'll just never get that image out of my mind of him just laying on the Mercedes-Benz turf.
Punching the ground, man.
Yeah, exactly. And it's so disappointing because...
Heartbreaker.
Yeah, I mean, but I think he is in a situation where he still has a lot of his career in front of him. He still is in the prime of his career. And so I would argue, I mean, he's just reaching the peak of his career. So I think in the back of Atlanta United's minds is the question, is Miles Robinson pre-Achilles going to be as good as Miles Robinson post-Achilles? So I think that's the situation that's in the back of the front office's mind. They don't want to sign a player to a long-term deal that won't come good or won't come as good as he was before his injury, because from what I read, those injuries are really tough to come back from for a soccer player. So I think that's in the back of the Atlanta United's minds. But at the same time, you run the risk of letting him walk on a free transfer, which would be a disaster.
Yeah.
Especially considering the quality of player that Miles Robinson has been, not just at a club level, but from an international level as well. So I certainly hope that Atlanta United can re-sign him to a deal, and not just to a deal that makes sense for both parties. And maybe he finishes his career in Atlanta, maybe he doesn't, maybe he does go to Europe, which seems like the most likely scenario. But at the same time, when you look at a player like Walker Zimmerman, who, another national team quality center back who just signed a DP deal with Nashville. Granted, he's not coming off of a catastrophic injury, but at the same time, that's probably he and Miles and maybe a couple of other players are that upper tier center back in MLS. So hopefully the front office makes the right decision based on what to do with Miles Robinson to get not just the best quality of player that they can expect, but the best return from him should he make that move to Europe as it's expected.
I mean, this injury has caused so many issues in so many fronts. Like, he was just about to become the captain. I mean, he did become the captain of the team.
Mm-hmm.
Got basically an open cup game as the captain, and then immediately gets hurt after that. And that was just a growing thing and another thing for his resume, that he was going to be the Atlanta United captain for basically the entire season. He loses the World Cup, and for Atlanta United, you missed an opportunity to transfer him out this window. It's, if maybe people did come in with offers, but they would have been very low.
Mm-hmm.
And now he doesn't want to sign a contract, which you hate with any team in any sport, to lose an asset for nothing. And that's just, something that you got to worry about. And even if it's in the summer, like, people still, they're not going to try to bring him on for something that they could get him for free later in the year. So it just messed up so many things, and it's just sad. Ultimately, the World Cup thing was probably the worst. It was the worst part of all of it. But
if he'd have played in the World
it's
Cup,
good to see him back.
Sorry, if he'd have played in the World Cup, he'd have been guaranteed gone probably in the winter transfer window. Probably.
Yeah.
I don't think you can make Miles a DP though.
No.
I think that's just bad business, and that might be what he's looking for. He might be seeing his buddy over there in Nashville and saying, "That's what I want." And
Yep.
Atlanta's not in that line of business. I mean, even though we had Alan Franco as a DP for a hot minute, that's just not what they want to do. So it's, our center back situation could look very different next season.
And it depends too, because I do want to pivot to the next little bit as well, talking about center backs. But yeah, like kind of speaking to that point, and then what Bruno was saying. Bruno had said if he comes back to the way he was, we need to sell him in the summer transfer window, or he could be a free agent and go anywhere he wants. And this is, the definition of a club and a player having potentially different interests. I mean, Miles is talented enough really to go to a number of clubs worldwide. The problem is, I think Atlanta would feel a little bit hard done if they didn't keep him, knowing good and well what he's capable of, because they lost essentially almost a full year of prime Miles Robinson talent. And considering how bad the team was defensively last season, you got to think, and how close it was to them making the playoffs. If Miles Robinson had been there, we probably having a different conversation right now about the playoffs. I'm not saying they would have went and won the cup, but I think a couple of extra points here and there from those late minute, stupid giveaways and losses or draws would have probably gotten them into the playoffs. And so it's unfortunate because, that Miles is as big of a talent as he is. He can go where he wants to. And he is in a bit of a position now where he can say, look, there is precedent set in terms of Walker Zimmerman, like you were saying, Tommy, up at Nashville, where he got signed on as a DP. I think the only alternative is to hire him not hire him, but keep him on at the max deal that you can without him being a DP. And if he doesn't want to take that, then you need to get something for him in the summer transfer window.
Exactly. Bruno had another comment, and we're actually going to pivot to Alex Collins. But they're talking about NYCFC essentially let Collins walk for nothing, and now they get no return on it. And now we're very familiar with the quality that Alex Collins has in MLS, and he's still available. He's still a free agent. And obviously kind of pivot toward that right now. Atlanta United are looking.
He wants money.
Yeah, exactly. And it looks like it's down to Atlanta and Boca at this current point in time. So
Boca being Boca Juniors.
Boca Juniors.
Not Boca Negra.
Right. Boca versus Boca.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, we know Boca Juniors have ambitions, massive ambitions on a continental scale and a regional scale. We know that they have a lot of money in their coffers. Maybe not as much as Atlanta United, but they have a lot of money in their coffers, and essentially, I don't want to say this will be a bidding war between the two clubs, but at the same time, it might be. It might be down to who can provide, the best opportunity from him, not just financially, but from a cultural standpoint. But I mean, I'd love to see Alex Collins here. I'd love to see midfield pairing with him and Miles Robinson. Like I said, we're very familiar with the quality of player that he is and has been in MLS.
He is. Here's the thing about Alex Collins. You've got a guy who, similar to Miles Robinson, is capable of being that cleanup crew at the last minute, right? He can handle his own. He can do things that you look at maybe some other good center backs in MLS, and they look better when they're in the right, formation. Alan Franco was one of them. Alan Franco had plenty of good moments with Atlanta United, but he had just as many bad ones, unfortunately. And that's just, if you watch the team over the seasons that he was here, that's just how it was. I think if Alan Franco could play the way that he did at the end of 2022 and the end of 2021, I mean, he would be like, you would never want to get rid of him. But at the times when he broke down, it was bad. And, but you're looking at another guy in Alexander Callens who potentially could come to Atlanta. And if he does, that's two very strong center backs, along with Parada, who we haven't even talked about yet. Depending on how Pineda wants to play in 2023, whether he wants to, switch it up occasionally and have a back three so he can have all three of them on the field, again, if this comes to fruition, or if he kind of sticks, I think, with his preferred back four, where he would have two center backs, and then two fullbacks. You have your left back and right back. Because I don't think anybody, and especially the team, wants to force an Andrew Gutman to play as a third center back again. Not that he can't do it, but Andrew Gutman being a left back that does whatever he freaking wants to was one of the highlights of 2022 Atlanta United. So you definitely want to bring a guy like Callens who can make a big difference on his own and who can clean up mistakes on his own. And regardless of who they do bring in during this season and in the summer, you do still have a relatively young squad, especially up front. And having a guy like Miles Robinson, who we know can be an emergency, lifesaver, and then another one in Callens who can do the same thing. I think that would be huge for the defense.
Plus it could help Cobb along as he really gets his legs underneath in MLS.
Absolutely.
I don't think he comes here, to be honest. I think that Boca can pay more.
You think
they don't have a salary cap that they have to worry about.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what their financials are, but I think that they don't have, crazy MLS rules that they have to abide by. I mean, if he wants to stay in the U.S., great, we have it. I mean, Bruno says, we've got Mercedes-Benz, Chick-fil-A, and Magic City. I mean, that's a hell of an endorsement there, but I don't know if that gets them to stay here or not. But I don't know. It's just
but you do
MLS,
get to play against
they
River
have a hard
Plate
time
down
competing.
What's
that?
I said you do get to play against River Plate.
It's true.
Down if you play for Boca, and that's a big deal.
And they're supposed to be good this year, right?
I mean, yeah, they're consistent.
They're always good.
They're good consistently. I don't know. And, Atlanta United, if you're looking at it the past couple of years, they're a project. I mean,
but
I don't.
Yeah, but along with that, though, I mean, he's already familiar with MLS. I mean, he already has roots down here in the United States. I forget how long he was with NYCFC, but maybe, already his familiarity with MLS could play a factor into that. But at the same time, you look at the first division of Argentina and just, what they have to offer, like, Bruno was just saying, versus what, kind of the intricacies of MLS, roster building, and all of that. So, I don't know. I wouldn't be so quick probably to say that maybe he'll go to Boca Juniors, but I mean, we'll see what happens. Again, I feel like whoever can provide him not just the best financial situation, but the best cultural situation will pull through.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the bigger draws maybe for South America would also be the fact that he is Peruvian and he would be closer to home. But I mean, like you said, Sydney, he is very familiar with this league and this country, and there is something to be said. Now, if he just wants a new challenge, there's probably nothing better than going to Boca Juniors. Like that's a big deal.
And he's already won MLS Cup, so
yeah. So, but it just depends on, can Atlanta draw him in with things that maybe Boca doesn't have? And maybe money would be one of those things. But I mean, Mercedes-Benz is a big deal for sure. Not that where Boca plays is something to laugh at either. But I really think it's going to be for him just a straight personal decision, and there's no way to guess what that's going to be. Would love to see him here, though. I would love to see Alexander Cayens here. But if not, then you're looking at Miles, Parada, and I mean, I guess Noah Cobb, which is, again, not a bad thing. But do you want to throw Noah Cobb into the first team like that?
No.
I think you need to get Miles someone a little bit more responsible to start the season, at least while he's still getting his game back.
Yep.
And I don't know, Parada's very good at scoring goals, but defensively, he's, okay. Not the best, but he's okay.
So one guy that we haven't talked about, just to kind of hit on him real quick, because we have other stuff that we can hit on, and we've been doing this for a minute now, and we told you guys it was going to be an hour and a half, but not that this slipped under the radar, but Omar Sejdic getting his extra year with 2 potential option years. I don't, for me personally, I don't think this is the last midfield signing, quote unquote, that you're going to see. I don't think anybody was ever saying like Omar Sejdic is going to be the straight starter at that position. And that's no knock on Omar Sejdic, because I thought he had a phenomenal, 2022, especially compared to when he first got here in 2021. But I think there's other maybe quote unquote fat that you can cut from the midfield and bring in another veteran. You have Ozzy coming back, which is great. At least it seems like he's coming back. Then you have Sejdic, who could definitely learn a lot from actually playing with Ozzy, because that didn't really happen last year.
Right.
And then maybe you make one more signing, because in terms of attacking midfielders ahead of them, I mean, you've got Almada, Moreno's gone down to Coritiba in Brazil. So you're suddenly looking a little empty in the midfield.
Yeah, it's not a game-changing signing by any stretch of the imagination, but it's good to have him back. He's a serviceable midfielder. I wouldn't put him in the top 10 in MLS by any stretch of the imagination, but he was good. He was pretty good for Atlanta United. I mean, not great, but pretty good. And Mark, HLUTD711 saying, good for Def. I don't see him as a solution to midfield issues. And yeah, I don't either. I mean, but at the same time, it's a good serviceable signing. It's a player that has MLS experience, obviously with Atlanta United over the past couple of years, and then before that with Montreal. But yeah, I'm glad that they brought him back, and I'm with you, Tyler. I want to see who else they bring in besides him and Ozzy and Josetu, who we haven't mentioned.
Yep. That's going to be another.
Would you put him in your top 10 as one of your bench guys? One of the top 10 MLS bench midfielders?
Probably.
I would. Especially
probably.
I would. I mean, he was. We didn't think he was going to play as much as he did, and he was starting over quite a few other players that make a lot more money than he does. Yeah. So he had some good games, and the schedule's overloaded. Again, as you look at the Open Cup and you look at leagues and you look at some Wednesday games that are going to be coming in, so he's going to definitely be useful for sure, and he deserves a raise for sure. So I'm sure he got a raise, and that's what the delay was. And what a funny situation that Atlanta United does. They post a video on Sunday morning of them all fist bumping, walking into the training ground, and then they realize that, we haven't announced that he re-signed with us yet. So they delete the video, repost the video, and take him out of it. Funny stuff.
Watching those clues. That's paying attention, Tommy.
Well, that's how we found out that. Oh man, who do we just we just cut striker?
Cisneros?
No, just left a couple days ago. Oh my gosh.
Dom Dwyer.
Yeah, Dom Dwyer. Like that was like something that like Joseph posted it, and like someone else like saw a picture of like a selfie of them like walking down, and everybody saw him. They're like, "Wait, is that him? Yeah. No, that can't be him." Remember, like there was outrage there. Yep. Like you don't sign an Orlando player, and
where did he come from?
Not right.
Yep. So, as it stands, because I do want to go over the roster currently, the most recent one that we were sent. You got 31 players on it as it stands for Atlanta United. You got plenty of offseason left to go. There's absolutely going to be more changes. But it'll be kind of curious to see what Lagerwey in the front office does in terms of actual signings coming in now, because we've talked about a lot of the earlier season stuff on the spaces before. Obviously, we got going with this, but you had a lot of guys that were cut. You had Derek Etienne Jr. coming in. That was one of the first big
signing, by the way.
Yeah, absolutely great signing. Who you should follow on Twitter, by the way, because he's really funny.
That idiot fan. There's no way that he knew that he used to play for the Crew. That guy was a Crew fan.
Yeah.
And then retweets it and then I tweeted him back like, that he played for the team you root for. He's like, oh yeah, I do. No, you know what? He was full of it. He did not know that he played for
that should have been the tweet of the week, because Etienne responded to him and said, "You know who I am. You follow me." So yeah,
I love a good social media player on a team. Yeah, they're fun. As long as he doesn't get too crazy, he'll be fun to watch.
Yep, I'm here for it. He's gonna be fun, and he's gonna be a great addition over on that left hand side. Just if we're talking about the team itself, I mean, you've got Abel Mosquera over there, who I think could learn a lot from Derek Etienne.
Yeah,
and this is a potential for your U22 signing in Mosquera, who you have for 4 years on a contract, to learn from a guy that really knows what he's doing. And then it's great for Etienne because he can come in and get playing time, plenty of it. And I mean, he is a goal scorer, and it would be nice to have a consistent winger that's scoring goals again.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, T. Riddle said, I don't think Etienne Jr. will fit in with our system. Who does he think he is trying to score a goal? So hopefully 2023.
The audacity of him.
Yeah. God, what is that guy doing?
Yeah.
So, all right. As it stands right now, the Atlanta United roster as of January 11th, 2023, today, or yesterday for those of y'all listening after the fact, you have 4 goalkeepers in Clement Diop, the new guy, Justin Garces, Brad Gazan, and Quentin Westberg. Justin Garces will probably get loaned out to the 2s, so that cuts you back to 30 total. Mm-hmm. Your defenders are Noah Cobb, Andrew Gutman, Ronald Hernandez, Brooks Lennon, Aiden McFadden, Efrain Morales, Juanjo Parada, Miles Robinson, and Caleb Wiley. It's crazy because there's so many names in there that we haven't even talked about yet. But midfielders,
we got some time.
We do have some time. We do have some time. Midfielders, you have World Cup champion Thiago Almada.
Yes.
Thank you for starting with him.
Absolutely. Yes. You have Ozzie Alonso. You have Ezekiel Barco, who is on loan to River Plate through this season. You have Derek Etienne Jr. You have Johnny Fortune, who I think is, by the way, one we haven't talked about, but he has a future for sure as he gets a little bit older. You have Franco Ibarra, Marcelino Moreno, rest in peace, tear a little bit. He is on loan to Coritiba down in Brazil through the 2023 season. Mateus Rossetto, Amar Sadic, who we just talked about, Santiago Sosa,
Rossetto,
and Tyler Wolff, who just got brought back from overseas to fill the gaping hole that is our midfield, or part of the gaping hole that is the midfield right now. So, Tommy, I see you want to talk about a specific one of those guys in a minute. In terms of
Tyler Wolff, let's talk about him for 30 minutes.
Yeah.
In terms of
Rossetto, how we've cleaned so. I understand that Lagerwey was not here when that decision had to be made.
Yeah.
But Lord Almighty, we have cut so much fat from this team, so much, and somehow, by the grace of God, this man is still on this roster with that salary cap hit.
Because he scored against Birmingham.
Oh.
In 2020. It is wild.
I just don't get it. Like, the only reason why I thought is maybe there was some type of, they thought there was a value that they could move him on somewhere. I know Sam Jones asked him the question, asked Boca about bringing him on and like why he kept him on, and Boca just seemed shocked that Sam asked him that. Like,
I mean, apparently, Pineda in the front office ranked him. I mean, that's
everybody does. I don't get it.
He was a captain for a few games last season.
Everybody was a captain last season.
That's one thing that I didn't like about last year. Pineda's reasoning around captaincy, but sorry, go ahead, Tommy.
Oh man, I just don't get it. I don't get it when you're trying to, like, I guess the Boca issue that I've had prior to Lagerwey getting there is he's always just had a trouble moving on from players that maybe he just made a bad decision with, and keeping him was probably not the best option here, because you're a team that he admitted at the end of last season is we don't have a lot of cap space. Like, he admitted to that at the end of the year press conference, and you had an option here to easily get out of one of the worst contracts that you've had. And you talk to people or you listen to interviews, everybody seems to value him. And I just don't get it at all with him. And in a salary cap league where it's very tight, I just don't understand how he made the cut. When you have any other I'd say 70% of this league where they're very careful with the money that they spend. Atlanta United is a team that doesn't have to be careful with the money that they spend. Arthur Blank will pay people's contracts. Look at the Atlanta Falcons over the past few years. They're still paying Matt Ryan. They're still paying Julio Jones. Like, they're paying coaches, general managers. Like, Rossetto's contract would have been pennies compared to what they were paying these guys. So I just don't understand why that was a thing. Everything else in this offseason, I'm giving 2 thumbs up for, but that one, the only difference between all the other decisions was Uncle Garth was not here to help with that decision, and it's the last thing that we've got to suffer on its own. And Ariel saying a flat ball is more useful than Rossetto. Cheers, Ariel, because you're saying it, not me.
He's gonna come good in 2023 and prove the both of you wrong. Just you watch.
If he can have his passing accuracy that he's had over the past couple of seasons and just move the ball forward, best midfielder in the league.
Yeah.
Period. But maybe it's just a matter of him just fitting into Pineda's overall plan. And I know a lot of people are not Pineda fans, and we'll see how that plays out in 2023. But who knows? I mean, it could be something as simple as, like Lagerwey wasn't here to maybe oversee a little bit of that contract renewal. It could be that maybe they're doing it to then try to trade him and actually get something out of him. I don't know. It is a little baffling. We'll see. I mean, but yeah, there is always that chance that maybe he's the guy that just helps fit into a renewed Pineda squad, and we'll just have to see what 2023 brings. Look, we're all in the passenger seat at the end of the day. So, so those are the midfielders, and then Mark asked, "What's going on with the Eric Lopez situation?" Well, the official roster list that was sent out today when they announced Clement Diop, they send the roster list every time they announce a player move or signing. So your forwards are Luis Araujo. I'm going to have to crack open the Ted Lasso Believe energy drink for this one.
Unofficial sponsor.
Unofficial sponsor. Yes. Yeah. Let's see how this thing tastes.
It hits you. It's sugary. I told you. Your face.
Woo!
It's sugary.
I just got my water here.
That's not bad.
That's all I got.
All right. So, Luis Araujo, Eric Centeno, who, again, spent most of the time with the twos last season. Machop Chol, Jackson Conway, the guy. Josef Martinez, who we've had a whole discussion about him. Edwin Mosquera, and Eric Lopez is on the roster. So, they got to figure something out with him. Yeah. Joseph,
he scored a banger against Nashville. That little flick, I remember the game.
Yeah,
that was a crazy game. That's all he did.
Yeah.
The Eric Lopez situation is just beyond.
Yeah, it's weird.
The entire thing of how it went down was weird. Like they convinced him to sign and say that they can't bring him onto the roster. However, he could play in the Open Cup, which if you knew what was going on with COVID in the United States, you knew there was no Open Cup. He ends up finally playing for the Champions League when we're already like the deficit's 30-0 going into that second leg. He plays there and then he comes in and like I get it was like what a bad situation for him just in general. Like bad by his manager, bad by Boca. Like he couldn't play basically soccer for a year. Like it was just a bad situation. They overpaid for him 100%. Just a crazy situation. Zilf had to buy a jersey of Eric Lopez because he loved him so much. And so now Zilf's out, depending if he bought it from an illegal site or MLS.com. Like it's just a wild situation with Eric Lopez. And it'd be nice if he had another chance somewhere, but like the cap hit's just it's too strong, and even adding U22 spots, it still doesn't make sense to keep him on here. But we do have a free U22 spot right now because I think Mosquera is likely coming off of that. I think
he'll be on it though until they decide to change it, which I don't know why they would change it though. That's the thing, because of the amount of cap space it saves you. So then you have Sosa,
or you could bring another guy in, another young player, possibly. Like you could find another striker right now that could fill the U22 spot. Maybe that's someone that's a little younger that has some scoring experience. Like there's things you could do with it. Like Mosquera is not making a ton of money, right? Like I don't think it's anything that's wild that's going to kill your cap.
Nothing crazy.
I get what you're saying, Tyler.
I think that's gonna be what it comes down to though. Is I mean, at the end of the day, though, they might have to keep Eric Lopez because they don't have another striker besides Jackson Conway.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I mean, it is going to be interesting to see how they manage it because they're not in the best position in terms of how he was brought in and all that, and he hasn't had the best run of form down in South America. So
he hasn't even played. Like he doesn't even play.
I mean, he definitely fell off the wagon for sure as his time down there progressed to the point where he wasn't playing much. I mean, he did play some in 2021 and early 2022, But I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see exactly kind of where he goes from here. I mean, again, right now he's a striker though, and Atlanta's not having many of those. So,
hey, who knows? Maybe he becomes the next Josef Martinez.
Hey, what a comeback story that would be.
Right.
I wonder what Eric Lopez's contract is compared to Mascara, because United 711 put Mascara's 337.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Lopez made just over $500,000 last year. So there you go. There you go.
Oh Lordy, yeah. I mean, take Mascara. If you absolutely got to, take Mascara off and put Eric onto the U22 spot, and hope that Pineda can bring something out of him.
Yeah,
I think
2 more years.
Yeah,
you have to use him. He's got 2 more years of Eric Lopez, and if you don't use him, I don't know that you're going to find somewhere that's going to want to take him. Right. Maybe you find another loan if you're lucky.
Yeah,
but I don't know, man. That's a tough one. But again, maybe he comes back here and he sees this as an opportunity to focus, and he's with a different manager than he was. I think he's gone through 2 managers since he left. So he comes back and maybe he can make a big difference. Revitalize his career a little bit. I mean, he's still super young, so it's not the end of the world for him.
Idolize. He's barely played.
What's that? I mean, you said if you don't use him, maybe think of the line in the movie. If you don't use it, you lose it. And Eric Lopez might have lost it. At this point.
Yeah. All right.
Bruno in the comments here wants Miami to literally take all of our.
Bruno's choosing all the violence today.
Hey,
Bruno might not be invited back next
Martinez, Rossetto, and Eric Lopez will give you a 3-for-nothing deal.
Just clear us up some space, please.
Yeah.
Man, it's crazy. But, I have seen a lot of folks saying, oh, we haven't had these signings and all. We do still have plenty of time, And just because you haven't heard a rumor doesn't mean something's not going to happen.
Right.
Look at what happened with Diop today. It's not like, not like a ton of teams were like really going out saying, hey, who's going to pick up, Clément Diop? And that's no knock on him, but he's not a Josef Martinez who's going to get all the attention.
Yeah.
So you might have 1 or 2 that pop up out of nowhere. I mean, Tommy, you were talking earlier about what happened last year with Dom Dwyer. He just showed up at freaking training one day. As a trialist essentially, and then got picked up. So
you look at Tata too. I mean, when he got hired, was really off the radar for Atlanta United.
Yep.
And the rest is history.
Yep. So
even like the Remedi, when they brought Remedi in, like there were no rumors of Remedi. All of a sudden, it was like we're signing Remedi.
Yeah. So I mean, you've got time now. If we were in the middle of February and we were having this conversation, a different story for sure.
Right.
But let's hit on, because we're cutting it. We've been here for a minute. I do want to throw out one thing. The preseason schedule. Alex DeJean.
That's
NFT advice, baby.
Next week.
He's my new Jürgen Damm. I'm gonna just every time.
Still going, James. Yes, we're still going.
Still going, James.
We had a lot to freaking cover today. So
you missed a 20-minute Eric Lopez conversation.
You did. All right.
Starting striker Eric Lopez.
Yeah.
Preseason schedule is, we're looking at January 28th against Chattanooga, up in Chattanooga. That'll be fun. I'm going to be there. Taking the kids. It'll be a good time. And if you've never seen Chattanooga, they're a fun team to watch. Obviously, if you paid attention to Atlanta last year, you saw them in the Open Cup at least. But just a cool city, first of all, if you've never been.
Yeah.
And great opportunity to go up there and see 2 really fun teams to just see what's up.
Yeah, Finley Stadium, nice ground. Finley Stadium is really nice.
Yeah. And just outside Finley Stadium is a really neat farmer's market as well, if you're kind of into that thing. So fun fact. So then they go down to Mexico City for 2 matches. They're playing on February 4th. They are playing, I think this is hilarious. I know they did this on purpose. but they are playing Atlante FC. So it's Atlanta, but with an E at the end. They are second division, essentially, side in Mexico.
Yeah.
Then on February 8th, they're playing Cruz Azul, that's going to be a big game, big deal for Atlanta to be playing against them. And then, of course, they come back up.
Chippy game? Is that the chippy game of this?
Yeah, that's the one where everybody gets injured.
We had a chippy game last year, and we got a lot of injuries.
Yeah,
we got injuries off of that for sure.
Yep, that's the one where everybody gets freaking destroyed and then has to sit out the first three regular season matches. February 15th is the AmFam Cup, where we're gonna see the new kit. So we'll be doing a show just after that, I think, because that is a Wednesday. Typically, our shows are going to be on Wednesdays. We haven't mentioned that yet, but typically it's going to be on Wednesdays at 7:00. In the beginning, we're still working some kinks out and all. So we'll talk about our next show here in a minute. But the day that the AmFam Cup happens is going to be on Wednesday. So that show will be the day after. We'll have a new kit to talk about. We'll have a new, hopefully, AmFam Cup repeat champion to talk about.
There was a little leak there. I don't know if anyone saw the picture of Miles at the media day, but the socks are sweet. I like the socks.
Yes, with the gold. They're definitely going with the whole gold vibe. So
I dig it.
And then the final preseason match is going to be at St. Louis, which is going to be neat because that is obviously the newest MLS team. Atlanta's not going to play them in the regular season this year. They are in the Western Conference. And I think it's been mentioned that this is going to be a sort of trial run for the Apple broadcast, which is freaking another thing we haven't talked about that we'll hit on next week.
Yeah, let's hit on that disaster.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot going on with it. I'm excited about, Moadu, Jillian Sakovitz, and some of the other guys that are coming in, some of the other folks that are coming in. But anyway, that's a topic for next week. We'll hit on that later. But yeah, St. Louis City, it's going to be a closed match though. So nobody's going to get to be there essentially, but it will be really cool to see them play because Atlanta won't see them at all, at least until next season, unless something happens in the playoffs or the League's Cup.
2023 MLS Cup. St. Louis versus Atlanta.
I'm here for it. So that's February 18th. And then, of course, February 25th is the season opener against San Jose. So what do you guys think? So this is, an hour and 45 minutes we've done this. We wanted this first episode to be big, guys. We wanted it to be fun. We debated about bringing in some guests for this first episode, but we knew there was going to be so much to cover. We would be here for another half an hour, if not more, if we brought in a guest. So there'll be plenty more to come. But Sydney, Tommy, what do you guys have before we kind of wrap things up?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, Tyler, we'll be here pretty much every Wednesday night, 7 p.m. Unless there's a match during the season. There are a few Wednesday night matches, as you mentioned. So other than that, plan on Wednesday night, 7 p.m. on Twitch, twitch.tv/Scarves and Spikes, youtube.com/@Scarves and Spikes, and then also on Twitter @Scarves, the letter and Spikes. And we'll be uploading the video of this on Facebook, so we'll be able to watch on Facebook as well after the fact. And then, as we mentioned earlier, this will be a podcast on the Dirty South Soccer Podcast Network. So just search Dirty South Soccer on your favorite podcasting platform, and you'll be able to hear us whenever you want. But yeah, really excited about the show. Really excited about what's to come. Tyler and Tommy, I know we've talked about it a lot. We've played for it a lot. We'll obviously have our Twitter Spaces after every regular season match, so for that too. And yeah, it should be a lot of fun.
We've been doing this for a year. I mean, we started, late February last year, and three of us, and it's been a fun ride, and we're just evolving, and hopefully we're gonna have better things to talk about this year, because there was a lot of crying and a lot of yelling and some crazy takes on Twitter, and we'll take some of those and we'll bring them onto here, and we'll have some fun, and in the meantime, you gotta light one up for Josef Martinez, because it was a fun ride, and
believe, trust the
I've
process.
never lit this candle before, and I'm gonna just keep lighting it until we see the 5-stripe forever tweet. We're getting that real soon, and
once a 5-stripe,
not gonna be any.
Yes.
No matter what the situation is, it's just sad, and we're gonna talk. It's gonna be a conversation for the entire season, especially when they come up. So
yeah.
Thanks everybody for listening to us.
Yeah, I do.
Absolutely.
So for coming in.
I do want to point out two things. The Twitter Spaces is not going anywhere. Yeah, I mean, y'all mentioned it a minute ago. Twitter Spaces is still happening after every match. But this is our thing. This is a thing we're doing on mostly Wednesdays. Next week, I say that, and then I'm going to say next week is actually going to be on Tuesday at 7:00. But we are going to have on a guest to chat with us about where he may be going, and that is going to be Tristan Traeger from formerly now of the Atlanta United Twos. Came out of the Air Force Academy. Rapidly became kind of a fan favorite with the Twos if you were paying attention. Super talented guy, and he's going to have some news that's going to officially come out probably very, very early next week, and then we will be chatting with him on Tuesday, probably the day after, to talk about the news and just kind of his thought process and the direction that he's deciding to go. So it'd be fun to talk with him. And then, we're going to try to get on as many. you thought
we're getting Alex DeJean, the comment. We're getting DeJean. I'll work on it. I'm going to
special episode just for investment advice.
If he gets me my own NFT, he can come on here anytime.
No, Dale, look, I've been chatting with him, and it's been mentioned for about a week where he's going, but specifically, he said that he didn't want it out there officially until it was official. So I'm going to refrain from saying anything to respect his wishes, because absolutely, I totally understand that. But yeah, he's doing things relative to his talent, and I think that's great for him, because he is a talented guy, and I think he will do great wherever he goes. But I do think that where he is going to end up, he'll be a very, very key part of that group. So yeah, you'll hear about it soon, and I can't wait to chat with him. He'll be fun to talk to, and he'll also be fun to chat with about his time at the Twos, because, like we said before, that's a very important aspect of the first team as well. Sometimes we ignore it, sometimes we don't pay as much attention to it, but we should. And the Twos are going through a big transition. They don't have a coach right now, and they're going to MLS Next Pro. So they have a lot to look into, and a lot to change, and a lot of things happening. So it'd be fun to talk to him about it.
Yeah, I'm excited for the conversation. Yeah, especially it's a terrific season with Atlanta United too, and I can't wait to hear from him.
Absolutely. All right, guys, we appreciate it. Make sure you're following our actual Twitter and all of our others, like Sydney said earlier, Scarves and Spikes. Make sure you follow myself at ATL Pilgrim. Sydney is at SH Wrights. Tommy is at Let's Go Ducks 96. And we will do this again next week and every week from here on out. We do appreciate it.
See you guys.
Thank you.